Viewers, it is I, James Kalm, your half-assed reporter, the guy on the bike, the menace. And we struggled our way up to the Upper East Side. We're going to run in here to Lévy Gorvy and Dayan to see a very special show called Uptown, Downtown. Stay tuned. Well, before we even step inside, we'll check out this Keith Haring subway drawing. There's a story behind that I was involved with. In the other window we've got looks like a Kenny Scharf. One of the kids from the Jetsons. Sweep over the installation. Got a bunch of Andy Warhol portraits. Peter Halley, Robert Mapplethorpe, Keith Haring, Francesco Clemente. Okay, Jean-Michel Basquiat. Okay, boy, this is a museum-grade exhibition. Eric Fischl. Salle. We'll sweep over the galleries on the second floor. Hey, Keith, you used to go into the subways and make the drawings on black pieces of paper that was used to cover over the ads. It's in Nancy Powell, Basquiat, and Warhol. That looks like it's near Union Square. Okay, we see the punching bag with Mary Boone on there. I think I saw this at a show at NOMED maybe a year and a half ago. So comes Jean-Michel Basquiat, Untitled. Mary Punched, 1984-1985. Let's see. Classic Keith Haring, Untitled, Pink Happy Face. More Kenny Scharf. Well, there was a wonderful show out on Long Island last summer called Reinventing the Urban Landscape, something like that. And they had a lot of these artists. This is a Kenny Scharf sculpture. It's titled Phone. He's kind of, I don't know, that's actually held up pretty well. Imagine that's just plastic foam they squirted on there and then painted. Okay, probably one of the best places to be doing your selfies at. Okay, this is Eric Fischl, titled The Pizza Eater. And, well, we talk about Mary Boone, and I think she made Eric Fischl. Julian Schnabel. I think Basquiat showed with a couple of other people before that, but she gave him some exhibitions as well. I think Eric Fischl actually kind of represented a return to figurative painting. A lot of the Europeans were doing very expressionistic stuff. This is David Salle, King Kong 1983. And yeah, I remember when David was doing a lot of stuff with shells and other things stuck out. It's got some nice, they call that nuclear design stuff, recalling the late 50s, early 60s maybe. This is Francesco Clemente, titled Name, 1981, Oil on Canvas. Well, I think that Mary showed a lot of the 3 C's, at least in group shows and things. I remember seeing some articles about Clemente when he first came to New York with the 3 C's, Kukikia Clemente. And at that point he had been working in fresco and had kind of built his reputation in Italy and in Europe on his frescoes. And then of course he gets to New York and well, New York is an oil painting town, so they made a big deal out of the fact that he was going to start learning how to do oil paint. I'd been going to school and studying oil painting for 15 years. Hell, I'm still working on oil painting, and anyway, everybody was happy. It seemed like he could learn how to oil paint in a couple of weeks, and so this is oil on canvas. It's pretty good. Keith Haring, untitled Dancing Dog, 1981. It says, Sumi ink and acrylic on paper, mounted on canvas. I think Keith was interesting because he was one of the first kind of a transitional white dude that had picked up on the graffiti scene that was happening downtown at the time, and in Brooklyn and the Bronx. And I think he was going to school at SVA, and he kind of invented his own language. And he had his dogs, his radiant babies, various other kind of signature forms. Here's one of his babies. It's actually rare to see a Keith Haring that's that size. Oh, it's one of my favorites. Julian Schnabel. Titled Aborigine Painting. Okay, I think I remember seeing this the first time, not at Mary Boone's gallery, but upstairs at 420 West Broadway at Leo Castelli's gallery, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, this is oils, plates, and bondo on wood and canvas. I was always more interested in what was going on in SoHo than I was in a lot of the stuff that was happening in the East Village. And Julian was kind of the phenomenon of the period. This is before Basquiat and Haring and Kenny Scharf and David Wojnarowicz started to get a lot of attention. And I think this is one of the early plate paintings. Saying this is 1981. It was a heady time. Oh gosh, there's a Barbara Kruger at the top of the stairwell. What? Me worry? Use stress as a positive force. How to be your own best. Okay. I think Barbara Kruger was maybe the first female artist that Mary Boone showed. She got a lot of criticism for being, well, for showing mostly male artists. Tseng Kwong Chi, Keith Haring in the subway with one of his drawings in the background. Well, this is a very impressive venue here. This used to be the Wildenstein Mansion. And I know that I saw a show here a couple of years ago. George Condo and Skarsgård had been renting the place. Okay, I think these are posters by the Guerrilla Girls. Look again at our Barbara Kruger piece. How to be your own best friend. How to negotiate. Yeah, the Guerrilla Girl posters. How many women had one-person exhibitions at the new museums last year? Guggenheim 0, Metropolitan 0, Modern 1, Whitney 0. The advantages of being a woman artist, working without the pressure of success, not having to be in shows with men, having an escape from the art world in your 4 freelance jobs. Okay, we've got some other things here. So like the photo gallery. A couple of photos here by the great Sally Mann. It's titled Hay Hook, 1989, gelatin and silver print. And I wonder where Sally Mann is taking these photos. Is that California, maybe? Okay, this is perhaps one of the most famous cause célèbre photographs of the mid-80s. This is Andre Serrano, Piss Christ, 1987, and this started a whole chain of events that was eventually turned into what they call the culture wars, and involved a lot of government funding for artists, alternative spaces, and everything else. This is supposed to be crucifixed that is submerged in the artist's urine. It's Louise Lawler. Does Andy Warhol make you cry? Okay, it's kind of interesting. Now getting in kind of a meta-art conceptualism, dealing with photography and all that stuff. This is kind of what the pictures generation was dealing with. This is also Louise Lawler. Lot number 22, 1991. So we've got a Jackson Pollock. Something else is that at an auction house. This is Richard Prince, titled Spiritual America, 1983. And so this is Brooke Shields. And I forget what movie that was a clip from. And Richard Prince had a little gallery. Was it on Gansevoort, Rivington Street, someplace just off the Bowery, and he called the gallery Spiritual American. That's actually a reference to a Alfred Stieglitz photograph. We got our Cindy Sherman here. Can't have a show about the 80s without several Cindy Shermans. It's untitled, number 86, 1981. Chromogenic color print, 24 by 48. Here we go. David Wojnarowicz, I was just talking about him. I think that's a photograph from the Museum of Natural History. Untitled Buffaloes, 1988-89 to 94, platinum print. This is also David Wojnarowicz. Untitled Hand-Holding Nest, 1988, silver print. There's a lot of tragedy in this. Keith Haring, David Wojnarowicz. Some other people died of AIDS or complications due to AIDS. This is David Wojnarowicz, Untitled Spirituality, 1980-89. This might be one of his most famous photographs. He was also a painter and sculptor. I bumped into a lot of these people occasionally. I was curated into a couple of shows by Keith Haring. I think one of them was at Danceteria. Robert Mapplethorpe self-portrait, 1980. I think Robert Mapplethorpe also died of complications due to AIDS. Okay, we don't want YouTube to ban these, so we'll make this brief. It's another Richard Prince, Untitled Fashion, 1982 to 1984. Do women have to be naked to get into the Met Museum? Less than 5% of the artists in the modern art section are women, but 85% of the nudes are female. Robert Mapplethorpe, self-portrait, 1988. Gelatin silver print, 24 by 20 inches. I believe this might be one of his late photographs. Also, he was a fantastic photographer, but as I understand it, he also did a lot of interesting work on these as he's exposing the negatives to the paper. Would do things, and if you look at the richness of the black in the background and how the head is just floating in the hand, it's really an effective photograph. This is Ross Bleckner. 27,764. And yes, Ross was one of Mary's artists for a long time. And, well, I still see Ross is busily working away. I see his posts on Instagram all the time. And I always kind of liked his feeling, you know, for the paint and the canvas. And he owned the building that the Mud Club was in, and I don't hold it against him that they never let me into the Mud Club. I think I went down there 3 or 4 times and got turned away. And yeah, after you get turned away a couple times, it's not like you want to go back. The Old Man's Boat and the Old Man's Dog, 1982, this is Eric Fischl. And yeah, I remember when this got shown. It's got Eric's kind of ambiguous narrative. Something's going on. Those waves look kind of ominous. We've got our people with long hair, people without clothes on, and a dog. I actually like some of these early Eric pieces. They're a little raw, a little funkier. Here's a Jean-Michel Basquiat drawing, what are they calling this, self-portrait with Suzanne in 1982, oil stick on paper, 60 by 40. Well, I would like to know what the backstory is for Mary putting the show together. I mean, I was a big fan. I went to the gallery as often as I could. I remember when she was in the ground floor at 420 West Broadway. This is Basquiat, Untitled 1982, acrylic oil stick and metallic paint on canvas. 94 by 60. Well, I wrote a little memorial piece for the Brooklyn Rail about Thornton Willis, and I mentioned the fact that Thornton was kind of coming of age right in the period where people like Mary Boone, Julian Schnabel, Jean-Michel Basquiat were taking off, and the East Village scene was getting a lot of traction. But it was kind of the period of the Neo-expressionists, and I think they even coined the term the energists, something like that. Okay, we've got a pot here by Keith Haring, Untitled Gold Vase, 1981. This is 40 by 25. That's kind of fun. Got a tape deck. There's his radiant dog. Jean-Michel Basquiat, Untitled 1981, acrylic oil stick and spray paint on canvas. Well, I was just looking at this and thinking that this looks like a very early Basquiat. And as the legend goes, Anina Nosé discovered Jean-Michel. She gave him studio space in the basement of her gallery. I think it was on Green Street. Maybe it was Spring and Green anyway. And he worked down there for the first 6 or 8 months before he had a show of the work. And people like Diego Cortez had been watching him and hanging out with him at the Mud Club. And I think Diego Cortez curated him into a show like New York, something like that, in 1981, 82. This is titled The 14 Stations 3 by Francesco Clemente, oil on linen, 78 by 93. So that's a big painting. And, well, I think Francisco did a pretty good job of learning how to oil paint. This is pretty nice. And, occasionally I see him at places like the Vito Schnabel Gallery. You know, he and Vito's dad Julian were good buddies. This is all part of the Neo-expressionism that was popping in the early 80s. Okay, you can always throw a skull into something and it'll make it more saleable. Well, I can't find the listing for this in the gallery guide, but I assume it's a screen by Jean-Michel Basquiat. Probably acrylic and metallic paint and oil sticks on wood with hinges. It's Robert Mapplethorpe, Andy Warhol, 1987. Well, in certain ways you could say that Warhol is kind of like the patron saint of the whole show. He's kind of drifting over a lot of this stuff, and this is interesting because it kind of combines a certain, almost like a Russian formalist, a Russian constructivist, minimal design element to it, and then it's like an icon. It's got the Saint Andy floating in the middle with his halo. Platinum print with silk panels. Okay, this is the last gallery, and I guess I would consider this more the conceptual, Neo-Geo, Jeff Koons, two-ball total equilibrium tank. This is 1983. Okay, somehow Jeff Koons was mixing up a salt solution in there, and then there's some kind of something inside the basketballs that hold them in suspension. I think I saw the first examples of these when I was out in LA at the Daniel Weinberg Gallery. Okay, good old Cady Noland. Cans of beer, 1989. Oh God, she's got her Coors Light. 16 ounces. I got a couple of those in the refrigerator. More Barbara Kruger, Untitled. So I always thought it was interesting that Barbara is doing these things with an extremely poignant text, but she always uses these red frames. Okay, we better hurry up. It seems like everybody's leaving. This is Christopher Wool. They're all untitled. Enamel and graphite on paper. Run dog, something, fear. $1990. I think this is a Richard Prince from his joke series. Fireman pulling drunk out of the burning bed. You darn fool, that'll teach you to smoke in bed. Drunk. I wasn't smoking in bed. It was on fire when I laid down. Okay. And I assume that's silkscreen on acrylic. Now, making my way to the exit. Okay, well, we're just going to skip over the Richard Prince. We've got some Jeff Koons, Andy Warhol in the background, more Jeff Koons. And that is Haim Steinbach and Peter Halley. Thank you so much. Okay, well, we ran out the clock. 6 o'clock, time to go. I think I got most of everything in there. So this has been James Kalm at Lévy Gorvy Dayan reporting on Uptown, Downtown. You can like this, share, link it up to all your social media sites. You can talk about it. You can leave your thoughts, ideas, comments, criticisms, and reviews below. And you can subscribe. We just ask you to say thanks, Mary Boone, and thank you, Kate. Thanks, Andru Cann. Thank you.